Watch Dr. Drew's new show at 9 on HLN. Weeknights on HLN.
Tonight, day 3 of the trial. Casey's dad, George Anthony, is back on the stand. Now, for 3 days, this man has been sitting in the courtroom while his daughter accuses him of horrific sexual abuse. Now, I don't think we're ever going to know what the truth is, but a witness today testified. Casey said, quote, "Oh my God, I'm such a good liar," unquote, which I think we've all kind of seen. Is the abuse now the reason she's such a good liar? Because that does happen. Or is she a hardened criminal engaged in really the lowest of the low, blaming her dad, throwing him under the bus for the death of her daughter to save herself? Could George really have been a part of some elaborate cover-up? Look at his emotion here.
Kaylee Marie, hey, look.
Do y'all have anything to say about the new theory that Kaylee might be dead? It might have been an accident?
Shut up! Shut up!
All right, now this is a man who lost his baby granddaughter and maybe losing his daughter. Listen to this.
You loved your granddaughter more than anything in the world.
Yes.
And you would have done anything to help find her.
Yes.
And you love your daughter more than anything in the world.
Yes.
And you would do anything to protect her.
Yes.
She is your baby.
Wow, it's just so hard to assess these things. I think I heard more emotion in relation to his daughter than the granddaughter, but is he the monster the defense team is painting him out to be? She is. Joining me now is criminal defense attorney Mark Garagos in the studio. I've also got bounty hunter Leonard Padilla, who was involved in the case since the beginning. Leonard, thanks for joining us. And host of In Session on True TV, Ryan Smith. He is in Orlando. Ryan, what is the latest today?
Well, Dr. Drew, it has been quite a day in the courtroom, and what's happening is the prosecution has continued with its timeline argument. They're trying to show this is how Casey acted in the days before her daughter's death, as the defense says, might be that date, June 16th, and then afterwards. And it centered a lot on George Anthony today, because about 9 days after Kaylee went missing, there was a break-in at the house that somebody broke into the shed and took some gas cans. The defense took on George Anthony, and they basically went into the argument process of, hey, did you know that she took these cans? You called the police, but you didn't say anything about a daughter being missing. George Anthony went back and forth and said, I didn't know my granddaughter was missing at the time. But the problem in all this is that the prosecution on the one hand says, George Anthony didn't know anything about this. He was looking for his granddaughter, and Casey Anthony is cold-blooded and was covering up and saying nothing to anyone, while the defense is saying George Anthony knew all along, and he was doing things and saying things to try to cover himself and expose his daughter to problems. And they went back and forth on this, Dr. Drew. Some would say that the defense attorney, Jose Baez, really grilled George Anthony on this. So it depends on credibility at this point. If you believe George Anthony, you believe that he's a man who didn't know anything about Kaylee's disappearance, and he was simply trying to answer questions. If you believe the defense and Jose Baez, this is a man being evasive on the stand, trying to throw his daughter under the bus, and really knew all along that Kaylee's death was an accident, but was trying to cover it up to save himself.
Ryan, thank you for that report. I want to now go to Leonard, just ask a very simple question. You've been around these people since the beginning. Who's lying? Who's lying here? Can you tell us? Can you have any sense of that?
Casey's
lying.
Casey's lying. She lies when she doesn't even have to. She's just lying. George is a poor, pathetic husband trying to make a marriage work, and Cindy is a half nut trying to run the roost, rule it like with a tight fist, and everything's okay. There's nothing wrong. George had no understanding that the child was missing from the last time he was with her until the body turned up. He didn't know what was going on. All he knew was what was told to him by Cindy and how he was told to act. When the cops came there, when the cops came on the 15th and it was out in the open that she was missing, that's when George started falling apart. I talked to him personally. My partner Rob talked to him personally away from Cindy, and the stories that he told us at that time were quite different than the ones he went public with. He was just an upset, almost insane man most of the time. He's not
Wow,
lying.
interesting.
He's not lying.
Interesting. Mark, help me make sense of this.
Well, I don't know that you can make sense of it. I mean, I don't even know that I make sense of what you were just told by that guest. So, I mean, on one hand, he's saying the guy didn't know anything. The wife's a half nut.
Then he said he lied about
Then
stuff.
he
Or
said
the
he
story
lied
changed
about
the story.
stuff, but the story's changed. So I think you have to do what the jurors are sworn to do, which is keep an open mind, listen to all the evidence, and then weigh it. The problem with a case like this, and I see it so often, and it's kind of the prosecutor's argument du jour now in these trials, is this: she didn't act right evidence. That somewhere there's a playbook that how you're supposed to act when your child is missing, or if there's a death and she either partied afterwards or didn't party afterwards, and that kind of evidence, that really doesn't tell you anything. And the fact that she may be a liar, that's fine. But you deal with people who have pathology all the time. Liars don't necessarily commit murder.
That's exactly